6:45. We were all again made aware of what we can expect to face: jail, extreme violence, or death.
So where'd you get on the bus?
We got on the bus in Nashville.
What date?
The 17th. 16th, 17th. I'm getting old again. And as we were getting on the bus, the original plan was we weren't going to rock the boat at all. We wanted to get to Birmingham. We had talked to Reverend Shuttlesworth, and we had attempted to have him have people available to pick us up when we got to the bus station rather than go in directly and demonstrate. We were going to go out into the community, hope that feelings would calm down a little bit, and then the next morning, prior to getting on the bus to go on to Montgomery, we would go back and I would use the colored facilities and they would use the white facilities. Well, as we were getting on the bus, Paul Brooks was right ahead of me, and he looked to the back of the bus, and the back was fairly well full already. And he turned to me and said, "Jim, I don't want to sit back there. Will you sit up front with me?" And I said, "Yes." And so from Nashville on, Paul and I were breaking the law. We sat 2 seats behind the bus driver.
Black and white together.
Correct.
Bernard Lafayette, describe this ride. When did your heart start to pump?
Well, when the first group that Jim Zwerg was involved in, they got arrested in Birmingham. Well, we did have 20-some students who were ready to drop out of school in the middle of the exams to go, and I was one of them. But we decided that what we should do is split the group in half, because if all of us go, then we all get arrested or we get killed or something. That wouldn't be a cadre to follow up. So we decided what we'd do is let the first 10 go, and I would be a part of the second group. In fact, I was spokesman for the second group. So when they got arrested in Birmingham, we said, okay, now it's time for us to go. We said, well, wait a minute. Suppose all 10 of us get arrested. So what we did was we divided up. 5 went by car, and the other went by train. And we wanted to rendezvous in Birmingham. But we didn't know in the meantime, while we were on our way down to Birmingham, Bull Connor had taken them out of jail and was bringing them back to the state line of Tennessee. So during the night, we passed each other.
Jim Zwerg, going to the state line, how scary was that?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to the state line, because when we got to the Birmingham city limits, the bus was stopped, and Bull Connors arrested Paul Brooks and myself for disobeying an officer when we refused to give up our seats. I was put in the drunk tank with about 40 various stages of inebriated white Southerners, and so when the others were taken out to the state line, Paul and I remained in jail until the 19th, when we went to court. We were found guilty, and when they heard that the buses were going to take us on to Montgomery, we were released.
Bernard Lafayette, talk about when Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King got involved with this.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. King came down when we had this mass meeting in Montgomery, when we continued the freedom rides from Birmingham. Martin Luther King got involved when we had the violence at the bus station in Montgomery, and we had the mass meeting at the church, and he wanted to be there to show his support and that kind of thing. That's when Martin Luther King was involved.
Now, you all had asked him to join you on the freedom rides, but he refused. Were you in that meeting?
Yes, I was chairing the meeting. Yes. And some of the students, particularly students who were from other states, who had been involved in SNCC, and also who were part of CORE or some other groups, and because they felt that Martin Luther King would give the kind of visibility, and visibility sometimes meant some kind of security and protection, because the media played a very important role Had it not been for the media, we don't know whether we would have survived physically. And that's one of the reasons why they attacked the media in Montgomery first. I was standing there. They went past us.
And they are?
These are the members of the Ku Klux Klan and other kind of people who were part of some hate groups and that kind of thing.
The police?
No, these were actually citizens.
Right, but also the police's role?
Yes, the policemen sat back and did nothing and allowed them to have about, well, they agreed on 15 minutes to rough us up. You know, and they agreed that they couldn't kill us, but they could beat us up.
They went after the journalists first?
They went after journalists, smashed cameras.
Who were you standing next to?
Yes, I saw a life photographer. There were two of them. One was very tall and young, and the other was kind of short and a little chubby. And they started running, and they were trying to get the camera from the short guy. And I understand this life reporter, who was a football player, and he was able to grab the camera and take off. They couldn't catch him at all. But this was at the bus station in Montgomery, Alabama, where Jim Zwerg, you know, was brutally beaten. But I was right there and saw the whole thing. But now, on the issue of Martin Luther King, there was a debate. There was not consensus. What should be said is this. Martin Luther King went to jail many times, so going to jail was not an issue for him. His house had been bombed with his wife and his baby there, okay? He had been a victim of many death threats and that kind of thing, so he was totally committed. So it was not out of fear for Martin Luther King. He was on probation in Georgia. Because remember when Kennedy was running for president, Kennedy made the phone call that helped to get Martin Luther King off the chain gang because he had not changed his license when he moved from Alabama to Georgia. So that charge had nothing to do with the movement per se. It was extreme in giving someone 6 months because they didn't get their license changed, but that was the maximum. But had Martin Luther King got arrested on the Freedom Rides, he would have been off serving a sentence in Georgia. So you have to look at the practicality of it. Yes, but he helped. He was there at the mass meeting. He was the spokesman for the group. And so I was one of those who persuaded him not to come on the Freedom Rides because we didn't need him in jail. We needed him, you know, on the outside helping to raise money to get us out.
Did it cause a rift with some of the other Freedom Riders that he wouldn't go since they saw him as serious protection? That
yes.
was a rift that would last for a while.
Yes, it did. And when you're in a situation like we were in, you need all the help you could get. But I agree that people must play different roles at different times. So I was very much coming, you know, from the point of view of we didn't need Martin Luther King in jail this time.
Jim Zwerg, what happened to you?
Well, I realized from my experience in Nashville that I was going to be a focus for violence if there was going to be violence. In that the segregationists, if they hated anybody, they hated a white being with the blacks. I mean, I was called all the names, and I was a disgrace to the white race. And when I saw the mob coming, I realized that probably I was going to have some violence.
And explain exactly where you were.
We were standing on the bus platform. We'd gotten off the bus. When we first arrived, it was very quiet.
This was in Montgomery?
Yes. There were some of the media around, and John was our spokesman.
John Lewis, the congressman.
And we had gotten off the bus, and he was just stepping forward to respond to some questions. And just as he was about to do this fella went at one of the fellas that was holding one of the parabolic mics. And he grabbed it out of his hands and he threw it to the ground, stomped on it, and turned and approached one of the photographers and grabbed his camera and yanked on it, and as doing so, the cameraman fell to the ground. He started kicking and beating him. And that seemed to be the cue.
The mob came out and went straight to the reporters and started beating them and kicking them and throwing their cameras.